It is Tuesday, January the 17th, 2023. Good morning, I'm Pearson Bowen. This is a CBC Morning Report. The Ministry of Education will be soon rolling out an assessment for all 3rd, 4th and 5th form students across the island to gauge where they are following the COVID-19 pandemic. Word of this from Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley. She says she gave the order as each child matters and absence of face-to-face classes presented numerous challenges for students.
We have to come up with an individual plan that allows us then to be better able to deliver the bridging deficit, to close the bridging deficit with each and every child. Because if we don't do it now, we will pay the price at some other point in our society and in our future. It is not an easy task, and therefore we believe that before we get further into anything else in this school term, that diagnostic instrument is critical, because it then allows the management of the schools, the principals and the education officers to make clear decisions as to what must happen.
We're also hearing this morning about the importance of engaging all stakeholders in the effort to prevent crime in Barbados. That message from Minister of State in the Office of the Attorney General for Crime Prevention, Corey Lane, after meeting with young, influential Barbadians. These people could make a difference in changing the mindset and behaviors of young people, specifically those who engage in crime and violence. Minister Lane says social media influencers appeal to and interact with many, which puts them in a perfect position to change negative narratives in society.
What we want to do is to bring them on board, make sure we can share the initiatives with them, help them to help us in the consultative process so that they could share it with their fans and their base to be able to give us that direction. One of the other things we realize we have to do too is to utilize social media a lot more to help us to nuance. One of the things that I'm finding is that we are losing the ability, or we've lost the ability to sense kind of subtle differences. So I may say I have an issue with the way how we have media leading stories, and people will interpret it as media coverage, and so they don't understand the nuances. So I believe that this crowd here, they may be in a better position, so I want to be able to utilize the whole of society.
And the social media influencers view government's plan to partner with them as a good move.
But I think all of us that were here today have some way that we could help, whether it's on social media, within our communities, however we can help to bring down gun violence, to drive persons into a different direction in terms of crime, to speak positive things into their minds. I think that this is a great initiative.
The strategy makes sense, using persons who already have a reach within the community to just speak to other persons and get the message out there. I think it's a great idea, and I'm really excited to see how it goes, but I think it should go well because we're all going to work together on it.
There are young persons who don't listen to the news, who don't read the paper, who just aren't interested. So I think that this is a master plan by the government now in terms of reaching out to young persons so that they can reach other young persons who then will interact with their peers so that we can bring this gun violence and generally bring violence to an end in Barbados, and we can have that safer paradise that we all love and know.
Public Relations Officer of the Sanitation Service Authority, Carl Padmore, has confirmed that at least 2 community skips have been removed from Eden Lodge in St. Michael. The skips, which were in place for several years, have since been replaced by signs warning of penalties or illegal dumping in those locations. In an interview with CBC News, Padmore explained the reason for the removal of the skips.
What we can confirm is that the skips were removed from Eden Lodge. What we're encouraging communities to do is to take better ownership of their own waste. Once you have skips, while good in principle, they encourage outsiders to come in and bring truckloads of stuff in. The better way is to take it straight to the landfill. Why should I leave St. Philip with a truckload and put it in somebody's skip in Eden Lodge? And now that we have the roll-out cards, we're encouraging persons to use them more, and therefore the responsibility then goes to SSA for us to go and to remove those. But the skips were indeed causing lots of problems, and residents were calling and complaining about persons coming from the outside and are really creating nuisance.
Well, touching on a separate issue, Mr. Padmore has also addressed concerns related to coconut vendors across the island. He says removal of coconut shells is a major problem and they're seeking to tackle that issue with the vendors' help.
We are actually serving notice on them that there's going to be a plan to work with them. And when we say work with them, because then if they put up resistance, then they have to deal with the law. We want them to understand, one, it's still free to go to the landfill. Secondly, there's a part up there that the shells can be turned into mulch. Thirdly, the responsibility to remove the said coconut shells is yours. It's not the government's own. Therefore, you must take ownership of that as well. So then when we look at the whole aesthetics and what it does as these shells get into the drain, as we get back into the rainy season, which is, the year has just started, but it's really moving quickly. We want them to understand it's their responsibility first. The SSA, the Ministry of Health, the MTW will all play a part, but the responsibility of that is yours.
Coming up on the CBC Morning Report, Carnival and COVID. We'll tell you if the greatest show on earth will go on. While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.tv. And together we will travel the world.
The Trinidad Carnival is proceeding despite the rising number of COVID cases.
This was a word from Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley. Although he still called for greater responsibility among the population with the new XBB 1.5 subvariant in circulation, and daily cases forecasted to reach the high hundreds within the next 2 weeks on the current trajectory. Speaking during a media conference at the Diplomatic Center in St. Anne's, the Prime Minister justified the decision to continue with the Carnival plan despite the rise in infections, laying the foundation for their decision to continue with the festivities. The Prime Minister said it's a comparatively milder virality and currently circulating variants whose threat are further undercut by a higher level of immunity among the population. The Minister of Health also said the ministry conducted a seroprevalence study last year to determine the level of immunity among the population, and it returned favorable results. He said this meant 94.7% of the samples had antibodies present through both vaccination and naturally acquired through infection.
In Grenada, Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell says it's best to get it right than to rush and get it wrong, as his administration prepares to name new ambassadors who will head up the country's diplomatic missions around the world. We have more from Grenada Broadcasting Network.
Government says it is working to rebuild the country's diplomatic service with a new cadre of diplomats as it prepares to soon make public the names of people appointed to diplomatic missions.
I appreciate that the general public may seem 6 months has passed and we haven't named most of our diplomats. And that is true, but that is the reality we face. And it is better for us to get it right and get it right slowly than to rush ahead and get it wrong. So to that extent, we certainly expect that in the next 2 weeks or so, we'll be making the necessary announcements as to who will be heading up our missions in the respective embassies across the world.
Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell said there is a large pool of people who have expressed interest in being appointed ambassadors, and government is going through the vetting process. He said not only will ambassadors be named, but also deputies who can provide the necessary support. The Grenadian leader said that individuals appointed will need to understand what is expected of them.
And so we now have to build an entire cadre of new diplomats, which means recruiting, training, educating, and stamping what we want out of our diplomats and the standards we expect. That is going to take time. So it's not just a question of saying John Brown is a diplomat, right? When they've had no diplomatic experience, no diplomatic training, understanding what it is to be a diplomat first and foremost, and second, what do we want out of our missions and our embassies, right?
He said a number of exercises must take place before people are appointed as ambassadors.
If you actually look at who have been our diplomats and the number of missions, and the number of honorary councils and so on that has been in place, you will see that to some extent the diplomatic corps, Grenada's diplomatic corps, the support staff, the support structure has been decimated. There are no career diplomats, and those who are left are not performing as diplomats.
Well, the Cabinet of Jamaica is to begin discussions on the proposed legislative changes which could see harsher penalties for serious offences. Prime Minister Andrew Holness is suggesting that those who commit murder be sentenced to death or life in prison without parole. More from TVJ.
2022 saw the passage of the new Firearms Act, and if the Andrew Holness-led government has its way, 2023 will see other legislative changes which will see stiffer penalties for people who commit serious crimes. He'd already hinted that the sentencing guidelines for murder needed to be reviewed. Well, these discussions are set to begin Monday.
Whilst we have not yet finalized the proposals, we hope to do so on Monday when we meet at Cabinet, but it will look something like this. For capital murder, the penalty is death. If not applied, then life without parole.
On the issue of the death penalty, it has been on the books, but the last execution in Jamaica took place in 1988. Since then, there's been an ongoing debate about whether more murder convicts should face the gallows. For the Prime Minister,
while there are many issues around the death penalty and how it is used, there should be no issue around the incarceration of someone who deliberately, willfully, repeatedly takes life. Our penalty system must reflect our value system. And in our civilization, in our society, we all value life.
For non-capital murder, the proposed sentence is 45 years to life.
Italian police have arrested the country's most wanted mafia boss, who has been on the run for 30 years. The police on Monday morning swooped in on a private hospital in the Sicilian capital Palermo, where the 60-year-old was receiving treatment for an undisclosed medical condition to make that arrest. Messina Denaro has been sentenced to life in prison for his role in the bomb attacks in Florence, Rome, and in Milan, which killed 10 people.
Bravissimi, bravi.
It's not every day that Sicilian anti-mafia police are congratulated on the streets of Palermo. But they've just arrested Italy's most wanted mafia boss, Matteo Messina Denaro, who's been on the run for 30 years. The man reported to have once boasted that he could fill a cemetery with his victims didn't resist. It was a major pre-planned operation, and at least one other arrest was made. The police and prosecutors are now celebrating, congratulated by Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. The police had accused Messina Denaro of bombings on the Italian mainland that killed 10 people. The Prime Minister went on to pay her respects to murdered judges, including one of Messina Denaro's victims, Giovanni Falcone.
It's a day of celebration for respectable people, and it's a day of celebration for the relatives of the victims of organized crime, because the sacrifices of so many heroes was not in vain, because some others took over their legacy and the war has been carried on.
Right now, Messina Denaro doesn't look like the godfather, but the 60-year-old is seen as the last in a line of old-school senior figures to have either died or been arrested in the Cosa Nostra. That's the Sicilian crime syndicate portrayed in the Godfather movie.
Matteo Messina Denaro was the youngest member of a leadership group within the Sicilian mafia that took control of the Sicilian mafia in the early 1980s, essentially by massacring all their rivals, and then mounted a major attack on the Italian state.
Now the question is whether Messina Denaro will reveal any of his many secrets, among them the names of politicians suspected of conniving with the mafia.
A sinking town in northern India has reignited the debate over unregulated development in areas with fragile environments. We hear more in this Al Jazeera report.
Drilling has become common in the Himalayas, with roads becoming wider as this hydropower plant is being built. But people in the region want it gone. They blame it for damaging the environment and destroying their homes.
Cracks started appearing in my house after the power project came here. We didn't face these issues earlier. They are also using explosives to make the roads wider. I don't know the exact cause, but my house has been totally destroyed.
Joshimath in northern India is sinking. In early January, deep cracks appeared across the town. Hundreds of homes are falling apart. Authorities are dismantling 2 hotels that were leaning on each other. The town attracts thousands of tourists every year. Authorities are blaming overcrowding for the damage.
Mainly the people of the region, people who are staying out here, they have to understand, they have to be made aware that their surroundings are not that stable and they are, fragile, and they should adhere to whatever the norms are put in place, because government cannot do policing day and night.
The Himalayas are ecologically sensitive and prone to earthquakes. Unchecked construction has made these mountains more unstable.
The region has long been prone to disasters like floods and landslides. Now climate change is making these more common. Extreme weather events have killed thousands of people over the last decade. Experts say they've been warning the government about the dangerous pace of development for a long time.
The situation, whatever has been developed...
Some say authorities need to study the impact infrastructure projects are having in this area.
Developmental activities are also required, and we also have to preserve the ecosystem of the Himalaya, which is fragile. But if we do not understand properly what exactly the load bearing capacity of a particular, if the city gets developed and if we cut a slope region to make a road and get it horizontal, then we need to assess that region very critically scientific way.
Similar cracks are also appearing in Karnaprayag, 80 kilometers south of Joshimath. People across the region are growing anxious, and many are worried they could lose their homes and livelihoods forever.
Well, here's what's coming up when you join me at 6:30 for Morning Barbados. The Church of England has made a profound declaration. What is it, and what does it have to do with us? We will delve into that when we have our conversations on CARICOM with Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, His Excellency David Comishong. Born in London, grew up in Barbados, and now under the bright lights in the big city of London, we'll meet the actor and theatre performer Ian Carlisle this morning. And we're just days and moments away from the general elections in Antigua. What are the last minute messages from the political parties, and what's the very latest on the ground there? We'll get this morning when we're joined by a journalist from the Antigua. We'll have those and a whole lot more coming up at 6:30 when you join me for Morning Barbados. The Morning Report takes a break here. We come back with more in just a moment.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan of Course segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.vb, and together we will travel the world.
enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of
Prime Minister Mia Motley says more mediation and alternative dispute resolution training sessions are needed across the country. She made the point during the final Impact Justice Project Community Mediation session at the Barbados Community College. More in this report from Rianne Phillips.
Prime Minister Motley believes the mediation and alternative dispute resolution courses are key, as the country cannot afford to continue with Victorian-era responses to stem the crime wave. And she's been explaining how trained mediators will fit into the legal system.
We cannot win the battle by bringing everybody to Bridgetown. We have to win the battle by resolving conflicts in the communities and the parishes in which they happen. And in those circumstances, it means that the effort to train has only now started. The Attorney General will have a responsibility after consultation for determining what offences and what conflicts ought to be mandatorily referred to mediation, so as to ensure that we do not have to continue to overburden a heavily burdened criminal and civil justice system.
Well heartened by the Prime Minister's comments, Regional Project Director of Impact Justice, Professor Velma Newton, says there are endless benefits to mediation, which are already being seen. She adds training sessions in Barbados and across the region have been well received.
We have sought to develop capacity around the region with the training of 2,210 persons in ADR, including 21 in arbitration, 713 in community mediation, 203 in community-based peace building, and 1,205 in restorative practices.
And during the session, plans were outlined to roll out a mediation course at the Barbados Community College.
The community mediation training is a new course that will be added to our curriculum offerings here at BCC. So not only are we future-proofing our curriculum, but we're also future-proofing our methods of implementation, where we are specifying that any new programs that are implemented must be self-funding. And this is not a new idea, but this stance is taken to ensure that we become more self-reliant financially while delivering affordable quality education.
24 people considered to be influential in their communities were selected for the training session, which runs from January 16th to 20th. Rianne Phillips, CBC News.
A local farmer is counting his losses to the tune of $300,000 after losing some 20,000 birds. But agricultural officials have declared the deaths are not linked to bird flu. The Barbados Agricultural Society has been shedding light on the matter. Chief Executive Officer James Paul spoke to CBC News explaining what occurred. He says in this instance, the Barbados Light and Power Company disconnected the electricity supply to the farm owing to an outstanding bill payment.
What happened then was that where a generator, which of course they do maintain standby generators, should have kicked in, it did not kick in. And that in itself then was a problem. So there was failure on the part of the backup service that the farmer had, okay, to at least kick in and start that problem. The other point I wish to make is that the farmer actually maintained on his own some system whereby if there's a failure somewhere in the process that you've been notified, that did not work. I didn't think it was just a combination of these things.
Mr. Paul says the bird died of heat exhaustion.
It is a tunnel ventilated pen, and we know that in these tunnel houses, the birds themselves generate a lot of heat. But if the fans are not working, what will happen is that there will be a buildup of heat over periods. but to a very large degree. So that is simply the issue here, where because of the fact that if the electricity was turned off, the fans stopped working, there was an increase in the heat in the pen, and as a result of that, birds were dying from heat exhaustion.
Mr. Paul says the social media buzz linking the deaths on the poultry farm to bird flu is unfortunate. He made clear the society is working with veterinary services, with officials already conducting tests and confirming this situation is not the result of bird flu or any other outbreak. Discussions are ongoing to determine what recourse the farmer has to recoup his loss. Fund access has been a major driver of the Barbados economy. Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Business Development, Sandra Husbands, made the comment as she addressed the state agency's 25th anniversary at the Sanctuary Empowerment Center. She told the congregation Fund access has played a significant role in the expansion of the micro, small and medium enterprises.
During its existence, Fund access has injected approximately $73.5 million into the Barbadian economy, resulting in the creation or expansion of micro businesses by 1,719 entrepreneurs. In turn, more than 2,600 job opportunities were created.
Chairman David Simpson, speaking to CBC News, said technology would be used in the business operations and a number of new initiatives will be rolled out this year.
We are in the midst of trying to be more innovative. We've created some new products so we could attract some new clients, different services to support business development, new businesses. There are a category of clients that we have, and even new applicants who don't necessarily need debt funding or a loan. So we're looking at venture capital, and we're also looking at a series of line of credits. We're not looking, we're getting ready to launch them to the public that allow people to be able to deal with their working capital commitments and so on.
Another performance for the record books on day 2 of the ICC Women's Under-19 T20 World Cup. Madison Landsman of South Africa took her first hat-trick of the tournament as the hosts beat Scotland by 44 runs. Landsman ended with figures of 4 for 16 as the young Proteas defended a total of 112 for 7. Scotland, in reply, were bowled out for just 68 in 17 overs. Here's a look at that runs chase.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity. If you are an entrepreneur, artist, baker, designer, author, or have done anything you think should be highlighted, email us at morninbarbados@cbc.bb. Let us show the world our exceptional Bajan youth.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? Then Mornin Barbados would love to feature your book in our The Next Chapter segment. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. That's morning without the G. Come and let us turn those pages together.
Because you love English Premier League, MCTV has got it back. Now,
well, the West Indies will play against Indonesia at 7:45 this morning. Here's a look at forecast conditions now as recorded earlier at the Met Office of the Grant Lee Adams International Airport. At the moment, 22.8 degrees Celsius, cloudy conditions prevail. The winds are coming from the northeast at 9 kilometers per hour. Expect a low tide this evening at 27 minutes to 7 and a high tide at 25 minutes after 11 this morning. Seas are smooth to moderate in open water, swells ranging from 1 to 2 meters and increasing. In the forecast for Barbados today, cloudy periods with the occasional brief scattered light to moderate shower. And for tonight, it should be a mix of clear skies and clouds with a few brief isolated light showers. A look now at some forecast conditions for some international cities. And that's the CBC Morning Report. I'm Pearson Bowen. Morning Barbados starts now.
Barbados, get up. Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
How are you doing today? Good morning to you indeed. Welcome to today, Tuesday, the 17th of January, 2023. I'm Pearson Bowen, welcoming you here, there and everywhere. Thank you so much for joining us on our streams on Facebook and YouTube. Always wonderful to hear from you. Continue to interact with us via that media as well. Now, coming up today, yes, more chances, if time permits, to unscramble some letters this morning. And what do you need to know as you are making the decision about the child care facility for your little sweet? What are some of the things you need to be paying close attention to? Our pediatrician, Dr. Gillian Birchwood, will guide us through that process today. As you do know, the University of the West Indies is this year at KFIL campus, recognizing its 60th anniversary, and they had a huge launch. It was fantastic. But they're also going to be engaging in a number of other community activities, and we will share more about those this morning, so don't miss it, about how you can be a part of those celebrations as well. Tomorrow is general elections in Antigua and Barbuda. We want to hear what's been happening on the ground, because as of midnight tonight, all campaigning stops. So what are some of those last-minute messages coming out of the campaigns? We'll hear from one of our journalists posted there in Antigua this morning as well. Today, too, we meet that man who was born in London, grew up right here, loves the theatre, and operating now in the big lights of London. Who is he? Ian Carlisle. He'll join us this morning as we continue to celebrate successes of Barbadians everywhere. But let's get started this morning with our conversations on CARICOM. And we're happy to have those, as always, with Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, His Excellency David Commichong. Ambassador, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pearson. Pleasure to be here.
Good to see you yet again. Now, this profound statement by the Church of England says a lot. But a lot of people are asking, what does it say? What did they say? And what does it mean for all of us? Put it into context for us, if you don't mind.
Well, you would recall that last week we had a conversation about reparations. Last week we were looking at the story that had gone viral all around the world about Barbados pursuing reparations claims against Benedict Cumberbatch and Richard Drax. And we also reflected on what happened on the 19th of December when the government of the Netherlands made an apology for slavery and indicated that they were going to be involved in some type of reparative or healing process, as they called it. So within that context, on the 9th of January, have the Church of England, the Anglican Church in England, issue a report confirming that much of its current £10 billion endowment fund actually had its roots in the church having invested in a slave trading company in the first half of the 18th century. That the church was acknowledging this, they had investigated it, they were apologizing, and they would be setting up £100 million investment fund, basically a reparation fund to do investments in present day communities that have been negatively impacted by that history of criminality. And Pearson, one of the things that really impressed me about the Church of England statement was the strong moral foundation that they gave for the position that they had taken. And if I may just give a little quote, this is a joint statement was penned by the Bishop of Manchester, the Right Reverend Dr. David Walker, who is Deputy Chair of the Board of Governors of the Church Commissioners. The Church Commissioners is that entity that controls this massive endowment fund, and a Barbadian, Mr. Alan Smith, who is the first church estates commissioner. He is basically the key person that deals with the investment of that massive fund. But this is what they said, and I quote them: "We believe every person is created in God's image. New Testament teaching is focused on God's desire for human beings to live in harmony. Justice, in this case, racial justice, must be part of, not distinct from, biblical theology. The concept of Sankofa, looking back to move forward to a better future, enables us to make a commitment to truth-telling, especially where historical truths are concerned. We are deeply saddened by the news," that's the news of the church's implication in enslavement, "but recognize it enables us to set an example of moral leadership and meaningful action that other organizations committed to a better, fairer future could follow." End of quote. That impressed me, Pearson, that they have not skirted around the issue. Like we have seen the British government skirting around the issue, that slavery was legal and that kind of nonsense. They went right to the heart of it. The gospel of Jesus Christ tells us that this was a sin, that this was wrong, this was a crime against humanity, and we are not skirting it. We are admitting it. We are admitting institutional guilt. Our institution was involved. We are apologizing, and we are willing to make amends. And the importance of this, we could quibble about the £100 million fund, whether it should be more. Of course, I believe it should be more, but it's a start. But the importance of this is that it presents a challenge to those other institutions that have been skirting the issue. Now that the Anglican Church has come out with this very clear moral position, how do you respond, British government? How do you respond? All those companies and institutions that were similarly implicated. So this is very important. This, in my opinion, is an extremely important development.
That is such a profound question you've asked as well. How do you respond? I've read some background to this. The Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, he called it a source of shame, and he says it's time to take action to address our shameful past. But all of this came out of a group of commissioners assigned by the Church of England to look into this, to do some research into it. And they've also gone as far as asking some of the other churches there to also do greater research to find out their involvement in slavery and the slave trade. How significant is this 100 million? What do you think this money could do for us and our development following that acknowledgement by the commissioners of the Church of England?
Yes, well, the church looked into a fund that they had in the early 18th century called Queen Anne's Bounty, and the fact that they took this fund back then and they invested it in shares and annuities in the South Sea Company, which was a private public British company that was trading slaves to the Spanish colonial empire. And incidentally, Barbados and Jamaica were the two focal points in the Caribbean. The slaves were brought from Africa. They were brought to Barbados in the Southern Caribbean, Jamaica in the Northern Caribbean, and then they were transshipped from these two Caribbean islands all over this hemisphere, to Argentina, to Colombia, to Venezuela, to Cuba, all of this Spanish possessions. So Barbados is central to this story. But we should be very clear. This is only one component of the Church of England's involvement in slavery. Their involvement goes way beyond that. I mean, the Church of England actually owned slaves, and particularly in Barbados. Christopher Codrington, he he bequeathed his plantations, Society Plantation. It became the Society Plantation. He bequeathed it to the Anglican churches, the Society for the Propagation of the Gospel in Foreign Parts. That's how it became Society. So the Church of England became a major slave owner. And the records show that they treated their slaves extremely badly. When the British government abolished slavery and compensated the slave owners, it was discovered that some 100 Anglican clerics received compensation money as slave owners. The Church of England itself received compensation money as slave owners. And then there's also the damage that was done by the church perpetuating a theology of black inferiority to justify enslavement. So I say all of that to make the point that the £100 million, which is really 1% of the church has a £10 billion endowment fund. I think that should be seen as a start. But what they have said is that they intend to create a permanent fund. And this permanent fund, they will be investing, and much of that investment will be grant funding in projects that will make a difference, positive difference in the lives of African descendant communities that exist today, but that are the descendants of enslaved Africans of the past, and whose lives would have been blighted by slavery and the slave trade. They have also said that they will be including representatives of our African and African diaspora communities in a committee that will run how this fund is used and what kind of investments are made, so that we will have an input in determining what projects are to be funded. So we are moving in the right direction, Pearson. We see this as a start, as a very positive start. But as I said, it now throws down the challenge, because that South Sea Company was created by the British government. The British government invested heavily in it. So if the Anglican Church is saying, by our involvement in this company, our investment in this company, we owe reparations, then what about you, British government? The British royal family, Queen Anne, the reigning monarch at the time, was allocated 22.8% of the company's stock. When she died, her successor, King George I, he inherited her stock and he purchased even more. And virtually every member of the royal family was an investor in that company. Then the whole of the British establishment, almost every member of the House of Commons, half of the members of the House of Lords, the literary icons of Britain, Jonathan Swift, Alexander Pope, Daniel Defoe, scientists, Isaac Newton, they all invested in this slave trading company. The founder of the Bank of England was one of the major investors. So the Anglican Church has set an example, and that is going to challenge all of these entities. What are you going to do now? Are you going to follow the example of the Anglican Church, or are you going to continue to try to skirt your moral responsibility?
That's a good question. I could hear it resonating in the minds, the cavity of the minds of people right now. Ambassador, we have to leave it right there, but I want to thank you again for bringing it to our attention and bringing it to the attention of all Barbadians everywhere, the peoples of the region, about what's been going on in our agitation for reparations. And I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning as well. Thank you.
My pleasure, Pearson. We are making very, very good progress. Momentum is building.
It is building. Thank you, Ambassador. He's talking there about the South Sea Company, which has transported, based on history, 34,000 slaves in a crowded, unsanitary, unsafe and inhumane conditions during the 30 years of operation. So it's pretty significant what has happened, and we thank the Ambassador for sharing with us the perspective so that we're a lot clearer today. Morning Barbados continues in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Because you love English Premier League, MCTV has got it back. Now you can watch all the games of the English Premier League plus UEFA and NFL on MCTV. Current customers can upgrade to Maxback Extra at just $23. Call MCTV today at 228-6288 to upgrade or come in and sign up for our new service. Football fans, let MCTV get you back in the game.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Joyful, joyful, Lord, we adore thee. God of glory, Lord of love. Hearts unfold like flowers before thee. Hail thee as the sun above. Melt the clouds of sin and sadness, drive the dark cloud down. Oh, yeah. Giver of immortal gladness, fill us with light, fill us with light. Oh, fill us with the light of day.
When you talk about triple threat, you have to talk about Ian Carlisle from Barbados. That's who you just saw on your screen. Ian Carlisle joins us now. Ian, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pearson. How are you?
I'm well. How do you do?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Yeah.
What a storied life you live. Here it is, a little boy who grew up here singing in the choir, dancing with the Barbados National Dance Theatre Company. You've done so much and now you're in the bright lights of London. Why? Why theatre? Why acting? Why what you do?
Well, you know, when I always knew that I was going to be a performer when I was little. It's just something that I wanted to do, and I had lots of musical influence when I was younger. My dad was always playing guitar around the house. My mom was always singing and humming while she goes about her work. Yes. I had lots of musical influence when I was younger, and I knew from a pretty early age what I wanted to do. I didn't really start out wanting to be in theatre. I wanted to be a recording artist, but one vacation, I went on vacation in London to see my sister, who was working over there at the time, and she took me to see a show called The Starlight Express. Mm-hmm. When I saw that, it was sort of like, yeah, that's what I want to do. That is exactly what I want to do. It's musical theatre it incorporates all the three disciplines: acting, singing, and dancing, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. Yeah.
So immediately you were blinded by the bright lights. You came back to Barbados and you had to make a tough decision. I'm going back to that because that is what you wanted to do. And so you've been doing it ever since then. And you've had a chance, no doubt, to rub shoulders with some important actors and singers and performers themselves, but to also be a part of some very classic, I mean, when I say classic, I'm talking about global productions as well. Talk to me a little bit about some of the productions you've been a part of.
In my London debut was in Lion King. I think we all know Lion King. Yeah, that was my London debut. After Lion King, I also did some production of Miss Saigon. I also did, after that, I did a production of Porgy and Bess in London. Yes, that was an amazing experience, absolutely amazing experience. Then I have done some international musicals. I've been in Notre Dame de Paris, which is a story about the about Quasimodo, that Disney story about Quasimodo and the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yes.
And also some international tours of musicals like We Will Rock You and things like that. Yeah. And in between those, I was fortunate to do some other work, like workshops of musicals and things like that. So I also had a little stint in Tokyo at the Park Hyatt Hotel. Had a little bit of I was a resident jazz singer there for about 3 months, and I fulfilled 2 seasons there as well. So yeah, I'm fortunate enough to have a varied experience in musical theatre and performing arts. Yeah.
You know, he didn't say to you that he was also a part of Jesus Christ Superstar, that big production from Andrew Lloyd Webber. And that's all right, we know the deets. How did you know, Ian? I say this because oftentimes from where we live, we tend to see or compare ourselves and feel as though we're not good enough. How did you know that you were good enough to do it and do it well and to be on the stage as anyone else?
Well, I didn't know I was good enough. But the only way you have to really sit down and have a talk to yourself and go, okay, so either I can stay where I am and not fulfill any of my dreams and be safe, or I can take that leap and start to fulfill the dream that I have. And I truly, truly love what I do. And that was always a driving force for me to take myself into a higher level. I absolutely love it. And if you love something and you will do it every chance you get, and every chance you get to practice it, you get better at it. So when I moved to London, the first thing that I had to do was to say I did indeed have it. And when I first got to London, I joined a amateur drama group. While I was in university, I joined an amateur drama group to sort of like flex my muscles and see where I am, performing wise, and to see how I do, basically. To basically test myself and see if I do indeed have what it takes. And luckily enough for me, I got good responses from my work. So, and that drove me forward to explore a bit more, to test myself a bit more, to see what else I can do. Yeah.
Oftentimes people who are the triple threat, as you are, don't necessarily get the support of the family, but you're fortunate to have been born into a family that's extremely creative. I mean, there's so many of your family who perform well. So talk to me a little bit about that support and knowing you had that wind beneath your wings so that you can just fly and soar.
And I love the way you just said it, the wind beneath my wings. They are the wind beneath my wings. My mum and my dad have always supported me in being a performer, wanting to be a performer. They could have said, Ian, don't go to London to do anything. Don't do it. But they encouraged me to do it. They arranged with my cousin who lives over there so that I can live with her for a little while I find my feet in London. And every time I come back home to Barbados, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, they're so pleased to see me. They want to know what I'm doing, and they keep tabs on me on Facebook and all that kind of stuff. But they have been such another driving force behind me because, as you said, my family is so talented. In London, I have my two cousins, the Manor twins, who minister in the church and sing. I have my other cousin Alex, who is a minister as well, and he does his music and stuff. Of course, you know about Jaco.
Of course.
Yes. So yes, I do come from a family that seems to be, and also Wayne. I have a family who is incredibly talented, and they are such an inspiration for me. Such an inspiration to me.
So there's some young talented people on the island as well who struggle with that level of acceptance, who struggle to find their footing and to find that place where they can be and really self-actualize. What advice would you want to share with them this morning, and to the parents in particular, who sometimes are the ones who are holding them back from being their best selves? What advice would you want to share to the child and to the parent?
To the child, I would say, keep your dream in mind. Practice your craft every chance you get. If you truly, truly love it, practice it, practice it, practice it every chance you get. The more you practice, the better you get at it. The better you get at it, no one can deny that you are good at it. To the parents, nurture, nurture, nurture. We're all different. It doesn't even apply to only performers or only aspiring performers. It's any child who has any gift in any section of life. You have to nurture that, because they will be happier knowing that they're doing something that they love.
Very profound indeed. You know, our makeup professional here, she said to me this morning, "Oh, you're going to be interviewing my cousin this morning." I said, "Who's your cousin?" She says, "He's from London." I said, "Oh, you mean Ian Carlisle?" She said, "Yes." So she's saying hi to you this morning as well. In terms of, Joe, you got it. Now, in terms of staying relevant and staying marketable in the industry in which you perform, how do you do that?
You just have to stay current with what is happening in the business that you're in. I try to keep up to date with what's going on in the theatre world in London. Of course, I try every chance I get to go and see shows and see plays and go to the cinema. Obviously to enjoy it as well, but obviously to see what is going on currently. There's also social media. This is the one good thing about social media, because if you want to remain current, that is one of the things that you have to come to terms with, social media. And it is yes, and it is it has its pitfalls and stuff like that, but if you manage it well, and take it for what it is and not make it anything more important than it really should be, it can work for you very, very well. And in this day and age, a performer like me, I need to stay current by having a social media presence.
Well, your presence is felt already here on our screens. Is there any project you're working towards, you're aiming to have next? What's your next big gig, as they say in the entertainment industry?
My next big gig, well, this year I'm so fortunate to be in the biggest musical there is at the moment, which is Moulin Rouge. Yes, I'm so fortunate to be in that at the moment, and it will be hard to top that, but the next level is obviously to try to get myself into TV and movies. So that will be what I'm concentrating on next.
There you go. It shall be. So it shall be.
Thank you.
Ian Carlisle, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's been wonderful talking to you. Much success in your storied career. And we wish you the very best in achieving everything you've set your mind to. You will do so, because you're very determined and very clearly one of the best from Barbados. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pearson. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you too. Ian Carlisle, triple threat from Barbados in the big lights of London. You just heard some of the amazing productions of which he's been a part and others that he's working towards being a part of. We can only give him our fullest support here from Barbados. We're going to take a break here. We're coming back with the news in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Affair segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.vb. And together we will travel the world.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
Some apps.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
2 minutes after 7 o'clock, news just coming to hand. Economist, Professor Emeritus Sir Frank Alleyne has died. He was 84 years old. Sir Frank served in various roles as he was a former chairman of the Financial Services Commission and a former chairman of the Advisory Council on the Economy. The accolade of Knight of St. Andrew was conferred on him on the 30th of November 2012 in recognition of his outstanding contribution to education, especially at the tertiary level, and for his public service to the people of Barbados. So the news is that Sir Frank Alleyne has died. We'll bring you more details as they do come to hand. The Ministry of Education will be soon rolling out an assessment for all 3rd, 4th and 5th form students across the island to gauge where they are following the COVID-19 pandemic. Word of this from Prime Minister Mia Motley. She says that she gave the order as such as young people have been absent from face-to-face classes, and that has provided and presented numerous challenges for students.
We have to come up with an individual plan that allows us then to be better able to deliver the bridging deficit, to close the bridging deficit with each and every child. Because if we don't do it now, we will pay the price at some other point in our society and in our future. It is not an easy task, and therefore we believe that before we get further into anything else in this school term, that diagnostic instrument is critical, because it then allows the management of the schools, the principals and the education officers to make clear decisions as to what must happen.
We're hearing too about the importance of engaging all stakeholders in the effort to prevent crime in Barbados. That message from the Minister in the Office of the Attorney General, Corey Lane. After meeting with young influential Barbadians, those people could make a difference in changing the mindsets and behaviors of young people, especially those who engage in crime and violence. Minister Lane says social media influencers appeal to and interact with many, which put them in a perfect position to change negative narratives in society.
What we want to do is to bring them on board, make sure we can share the initiatives with them, help them to help us in the consultative process so they can share it with their fans and their base to be able to give us that direction. One of the other things we realize we have to do too is to utilize social media a lot more to help us to nuance. One of the things that I'm finding is that we are losing the ability, or we've lost the ability to sense kind of subtle differences. So I may say I have an issue with the way how we have media leading or media leading stories, and people will interpret it as media coverage. And so they're not understanding the nuances. So I believe that this crowd here, they may be in a better position. So I want to be able to utilize the whole of society.
Public Relations Officer of the Sanitation Service Authority, Carl Padmore, has confirmed that at least 2 community skips have been removed from Eden Lodge in St. Michael. The skips, which were in place for several years, have since been replaced by signs warning of penalties for illegal dumping in those locations. In an interview with CBC News, Mr. Padmore explained the reason for the removal of the skips.
What we can confirm is that the skips were removed from Eden Lodge. What we're encouraging communities to do is to take ownership of their own waste. Once you have skips, while good in principle, they encourage outsiders to come in and bring truckloads of stuff in. The better way is to take it straight to the landfill. Why should I leave St. Philip with a truckload and put it in somebody's skip in Eden Lodge? And now that we have the roll-out carts, we're encouraging persons to use them more, and therefore the responsibility then goes to SSA for us to go and to remove those. But the skips were indeed causing lots of problems, and residents were calling and complaining about persons coming from the outside and are really creating nuisance.
Prime Minister Miamor Motley says more mediation and alternative dispute resolution training sessions are needed across the island. She made the point during the final Impact Justice Project community mediation session at the Barbados Community College. More from Rianne Phillips.
Prime Minister Motley believes the mediation and alternative dispute resolution courses are key, as the country cannot afford to continue with Victorian-era responses to stem the crime wave. And she's been explaining how trained mediators will fit into the legal system.
We cannot win the battle by bringing everybody to Bridgetown. We have to win the battle by resolving conflicts in the communities and the parishes in which they happen. And in those circumstances, it means that the effort to train has only now started. The Attorney General will have a responsibility after consultation for determining what offences and what conflicts ought to be mandatorily referred to mediation, so as to ensure that we do not have to continue to overburden a heavily burdened criminal and civil justice system.
Well heartened by the Prime Minister's comments, Regional Project Director of Impact Justice, Professor Velma Newton, says there are endless benefits to mediation, which are already being seen. She adds, training sessions in Barbados and across the region have been well received.
We have sought to develop capacity around the region with the training of 2,210 persons in ADR, including 21 in arbitration, 713 in community mediation, 203 in community-based peace building, and 1,205 in restorative practices.
And during the session, plans were outlined to roll out a mediation course at the Barbados Community College.
The community mediation training is a new course that will be added to our curriculum offerings here at BCC. So not only are we future-proofing our curriculum, but we're also future-proofing our methods of implementation, where we are specifying that any new programs that are implemented must be self-funding. And this is not a new idea, but this stance is taken to ensure that we become more self-reliant financially while delivering affordable quality education.
24 people considered to be influential in their communities were selected for the training session, which runs from January 16th to 20th. Rianne Phillips, CBC News.
Thank you, Rianne. That's news until now. More news here on TV8 at 12 noon in the CBC News Day. Morning Barbados continues in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity. If you are an entrepreneur, artist, baker, designer, author, or have done anything you think should be highlighted? Email us at morninbarbados@cbc.bb. Let us show the world our exceptional Bajan youth.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? Then Mornin Barbados would love to feature your book in our The Next Chapter segment. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. That's morning without the G. Come and let us turn those pages together.
Because you love English Premier League, MCT.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's 11 after 7 o'clock this coming Thursday for Q in the community. Where we go? We're going to the beautiful parish of St. Lucy. That's where we're headed to catch 22 in Salmons, St. Lucy. So if you need to know how to get there, discover how to get there between now and Thursday. That's your homework, because you're all coming to catch 22 Salmons, St. Lucy this Thursday for Q in the community. Of course, if you're going to be taking public transportation, gate number 1 from the Granville Williams bus terminal in town is where you go. Buses will start to roll out from 11 in the morning. So we encourage as many of you as possible to join us at Q in the community this Thursday at Catch 22 Salmons in St. Lucy. That's where we're headed. Let's turn our attention now to pediatric care. And joining us this morning as we take a look at now you're deciding to determine which daycare center will be the one that suits you. Dr. Birchwood, good morning to you.
Good morning, good morning, all of Barbados. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I am good. I can't complain.
Oh, we shall not at all. So, baby is born. We've got to get back to work. And so we have to find someone somewhere to take care of the baby. And we're going to be making a decision. So we're moving around, we're shopping around as to the best location to take care of this little darling, precious gift. What are some of the things that we need to start paying very close attention to before we decide where to place our babies?
You know, it's such a big decision for parents, sending your child daycare. It's very daunting, and often parents are really fearful that their child will not be well managed. So I think it's really important to sort of approach choosing a daycare for your child in a stepwise fashion. And there are even checklists that I think are really helpful that will help parents when you go to different daycares, the things that you will look for. And not every daycare will suit every child. You as the parent will know your child, and you'll say, you know what, this environment is not the best for my child. It might be fine for some other children, but it's not going to suit my child. So you should not look at it as a one-size-fits-all. You know your child, and you know what will promote their development best when you go from one to the next.
So my child helps me make the decision, so to speak. And I mean, here it is, because there are a number of things I'm going to be looking for, you know, not just in terms of access and convenience for me, but how clean is this place? You know, what do I know about the people who run this place? What do I know about the facilities in general? Are those the kinds of things I need to pay close attention to as well?
Yes, definitely. I think that any parent wants to know, first of all, that their child will be safe. Second, that they're well cared for. They also want to make sure their child is going to develop. So there are points that we really look for when we are choosing a daycare. This one is, will my child be supervised? Everybody knows that it only takes seconds for a toddler or little one to get into trouble. And so you want to make sure that you have the adequate and appropriate ratio between the carers and children. And in Barbados, the minimum recommended ratio for children under the age of 2 years is that there should be one carer for every 6 children under the age of 2. And for children over the age of 2, there should be one carer for every 12 children. So that's a minimum ratio. Of course, there's a smaller ratio, 1 to 4, for example. That's even better. So that's the first and important point. You don't want your little one getting into mischief. The second point is you want to know, have the carers been trained to look after your child? You don't want that your child just goes to the daycare and they're feeding them and changing their pampers and putting them down. You want to make sure that there's some kind of program that people are trained to know what to do. And so importantly, do they have some kind of training in early childhood education? And do they update in that training from time to time to make sure that they are bringing the best so that your child has the best chance of development? And the third point out of the 6 points is, will my child be able to learn? So in other words, this is a direct segue from, is there training in early childhood development so that they can be very purposeful about developing programs that will facilitate the growth and development of young minds, which all of us as parents give our children the best possible chance. So those are 3 points so far out of the 6 that parents should look for when we're choosing a daycare.
So I have to visit the center, take a look around, use your eyes, use your ears, ask your questions, observe to see whether or not this space is the one that really is going to help my child thrive. Are the people who I see busy moving around, are they really doing so efficiently and effectively? Are the children responding? How are the children responding? Is the area sanitary? You know, that is so vitally important, because that's one of the incubators for a whole host of things. Will this child be supervised? Do they look as though they're overwhelmed, or are the facilities well managed? Those are the kinds of things that we're talking about. So that's important. What are some of the red flags I need to pay attention to, though, when I go there and I observe, but somehow something might not be right? What are some of the things to pay attention to?
Well, one of the red flags is, how do the kids look? Are they sitting there looking bored? Are they playing? Are they fretful? You know, how do the children look? Do they look happy? Normally, when we think of daycare and preschool, we think of happy children who are moving around from one activity to the next. They're engaged and they're enjoying their environment. We know, of course, you know, there'll be little ones who the first week or so after they go will sit and cry for a little bit, but they should perk up and definitely really be able to do things and really enjoy it clearly. I think that's very important to start with.
So are they having fun? Are they having fun? Are they playing with the toys? Are they playing among themselves? Do they look as though they're healthy as well and well cared for? So those are some red signs. If they don't, then you might want to consider whether or not you want to place your child there. If the child has special needs, though, are there any particular things that you should pay closer attention to make that decision as to where to place a child?
Yes. So this is a very important question. Children who may have still needs. So that if may perhaps be one who is likely to develop differently, then that doesn't mean that they can't go into a regular daycare environment. And we certainly would encourage parents to put children with special needs into a regular daycare environment where possible. However, if your child has medical complexities, for example, they need to be specially supervised, there's a risk that might need some kind of procedure, you want to make sure that the carers would actually be competent in doing that, and also be competent in first aid if your child is at risk. But you have to really consider putting your child at risk if they have medical complexity, because they may pick up illnesses and viruses. This is a very common thing that we know about when children go into daycare. Consider the safety of the daycare environment. Does it look clean, as you mentioned, Pearson? You know, are there nails on the wall? Is there a fire exit? The Child Care Board in Barbados does a very good job of, when daycares are being registered, they will visit the daycare. Town and Country Planning checks it out to make sure that the square footage is suitable for the number of children that they want to have. The fire service goes by to make sure that there's an entrance. Carers are trained in things like first aid and early childhood. So I think that's a really good place to check it out, the Child Care Board places that, and I think that'd be very helpful. So the last point for looking for daycare is, will the daycare work with you as the parent? Do they have your same values? How do they discipline the children? Does it meet your expectation? Because you don't want to come and find that they have engaged in some activity that does not meet your standards for what your family values are. Because as a parent, you may feel set. So make sure that you look at all those different aspects of care, and they're summarized in a document that is called, "Is this place right for my child?" And I would definitely encourage parents to look that up. Is this place right for my child? And there should be a little screenshot of that so that parents can look it up and they can take that document with them so they understand exactly what's happening.
For my child. That requires a relationship, though, with the place as well, because, you know, oftentimes it's not as simple parents as drop off, pick up, and that's it. It takes some time. Takes some time to talk to the carers who are there, to hear from them whether or not how your child is doing. Talk to the runners of those daycare centers as well. Get involved. In other words, don't just be passive. Pick up and drop off. Pick up and drop off. Nah, that can't work. Not for me, for sure. As you know this about me, Dr. Birchwood. Not for me. I'm getting all involved indeed. And so, because in doing so, then you will know whether or not your child is being well cared for or not.
Yes. Parenting is not a passive process. Nope. You have to get involved. You know, all of the points that you brought out, I think you should go with parents to help them pick a daycare, because I think you know what for. And you have to be particular. This is your child. This is your special little person. Yes. And they are counting on you to put them in the right environment and to read the signals if they are not happy there. You know, don't hesitate. If you have a bad vibe about the place, don't worry to figure out exactly what it is. No matter how highly recommended it isn't for your child. Be fussy. They are counting on us, our little people.
Indeed. So then because again, an incubator, we're meeting all sorts of other children from everywhere else, and none of us has control of how they manage their child. But it can also be a place where children get sick. So what can I do to protect my child from falling ill in that kind of environment?
Okay, well, I want everyone to get out a notepad and write this down. Okay, nothing. You can't do anything. Right? Because once out there, they're going to be interacting with other children. So talk about vitamin C and, you know, giving them this to drink or drink. Just make sure that your child has a normal, healthy diet. But unfortunately, getting ill is part of growing up. It's actually good for your immune system. It's really not a pleasant process, but there's really nothing that you can do. And in the daycare environments, no matter how clean they are, the aunties cannot stop every interaction between children. And some children may be brewing an illness and have no symptoms, yet be contagious. And this is how things will spread in daycare. So truthfully, there's very little you can do to prevent them from becoming sick when they go to daycare.
Noted, Nothing. Nothing I can do, indeed. And I've written it down. So there's a lot that we need to be paying close attention to. Take a visit to the daycare center of choice. If this particular one in your area, then take a look. Don't just go once. Go more than once, perhaps, and just observe. Have meetings with the management. Have meetings with the aunties and see what's going on. Maybe talk to some other parents as well to get a good sense as to whether or not this is the place for you. Pay attention to whether or not your child is going to be supervised by watching what happens with the supervision of other children. Have those carers been trained, asked questions? And one, as Dr. Birchwood said, is to check with the Child Care Board to see whether or not it is a designated, supervised by the Child Care Board facility. All of those things are very, very important. Does this program really work for you in terms of the kind of interaction, the kind of stimulating programs that they do have in place at the nursery, helping the child with coping skills, motor skills, being delighted by color? Do they take them out on strolls and the like? What are some of the kinds of activities that they do there? If the child has special needs, it's also important to pay even closer attention to what's happening there at that daycare center as well, so that the child is best placed, whether it is a case of a cognitive challenge or a physical challenge. Whatever the specific challenge is, find the best daycare center for it indeed. Dr. Birchwood, it is always so delightful talking to you because we learned so much, but we also learned today nothing we can do about making sure our child is safe from illness for daycare. It just happens. We just have to be able to respond when it happens. It happens. Thank you so much for joining us as always. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You do too. Thank you very much. Dr. Gillian Bertrand, pediatrician who joins us every Tuesday morning, sharing with us sage information indeed. We're taking a break here. We're coming back with more this morning on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Because you love English Premier League, MCTV has got it back. Now you can watch all the games of the English Premier League plus UEFA and NFL on MCTV. Current customers can upgrade to Matchback Extra at just $23. Call MCTV today at 228-6288 to upgrade or come in and sign up for a new service. Football fans, let MCTV get you back in the game.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you...
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
27 minutes now after 7 o'clock. Tomorrow, the 18th of January, is General Elections Day in Antigua and Barbuda, so we're just the day away. Joining us this morning as we take a look at what's been happening in the campaign in the lead up to tomorrow's poll is Kieran Murdoch, who is a journalist and the host of the Wake Up Call in Antigua. Kieran, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Good to be with you as well. Now, Kieran, there's been a lot going on. There's been that megacade, but there's also been a fire at one of the constituency offices. Talk to me a little bit about the atmosphere in Antigua now, Antigua and Barbuda, as tomorrow is the general elections day. What's been going on?
We've had an interesting campaign. It has been a short campaign, and I do apologize. In an area there might be a bit of an echo, but anyway. It's been a short campaign. We have gotten to the point where I think mostly parties are concerned about ensuring that their supporters get out, ensuring that their supporters actually, come and support them on election day. I think the effort to really convince people has come to an end. You just try to get out persons who are inclined to vote for you anyway, get them not to be complacent. The fire that you mentioned took place at the constituency branch office of a ruling party candidate, the Minister of Information, Melford Nicholas, who is a candidate in St. John City East. It was said by a number of party officials that they suspected arson may have been the cause there, but the fire officials did not release any particular conclusion as to what may have been the cause, and they said that the investigations were ongoing. It happened sometime early in the morning. The fire officials said a call came in at 4:30, and party officials said that meetings were being held there up to 3 a.m., past 3 a.m. in the morning. Yes, there was a very large, what is being referred to, or what has been referred to as a megacade. That was a ruling party event. It took place on Sunday. Interestingly enough, they would have actually cancelled other events, or that their last major events following that. They had events slated, I believe, for Sunday and Tuesday, which they cancelled in an effort to allow their candidates, I believe, to basically get back on the ground in their constituencies and do as much canvassing as possible in the lead up to the actual day. I believe at midnight, at the end of this day, constitutionally or lawfully, according to the Representation of the People Act, campaigning must stop. So they're all getting in their last lap, if I'm to use a term from Carnival. As I said, it's been an interesting election campaign. The point at which we are at now is different from 2018. In 2018, it was pretty obvious that the ruling party, the ruling Labour Party, would retain government. The opposition party was in a particularly bad state. The election seemed to have caught them somewhat off guard at that point in time. On this occasion, the opposition appears to be doing much better in terms of its momentum and in terms of its public support. It has drawn out more persons, more participants. I think it's been able to mobilize its base. But in response to that, we have seen the ruling Labour Party, as is being shown in these graphics here. We've seen the ruling Labour Party as well doing as much as it can to mobilize its persons and also to demonstrate its support. There was a period, perhaps 5-6 days ago, where it really did appear that the opposition party, the main opposition party, I should say, the United Progressive Party, had far stronger chances than persons might have imagined going into the election. And I think it was particularly because the ruling Labour Party, and particularly the Labour Party leader, the Prime Minister Gaston Brown, had been engaged in a number of spats with independent candidate Mr. Asad Michael, who is a former Labour MP. He's been a former 4-term Labour MP in St. Peter, but he fell out with the Labour Party. He fell out with the Prime Minister specifically and is now running as an independent. And he is a high-powered political individual in Antigua and Barbuda, a very wealthy individual, has been a Labour Party financier, or had been a Labour Party financier for many years, and is now running as an independent. And that situation has created somewhat of a political distraction for the Labour Party. And if you know the person of Gaston Brown as Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, is a personality that tends to find it difficult to ignore attacks. It's just not Gaston Brown's personality to ignore attacks. So there are many persons who, having observed the last 2 weeks, will say that the Prime Minister has been somewhat distracted by Mr. Michael, and that this has perhaps given the opposition an upper leg. You know, you see the Labour Party leader and the Labour Party and an individual who formerly was a member of the Labour Party and is now running as an independent, having their own very, very public spats and getting into all sorts of allegations against each other. And Mr. Michael was leveling allegations of corruption at the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister has been leveling allegations of corruption against Mr. Michael. So all of that is happening, but meanwhile, the opposition is really just campaigning. So, you know, there was a period, maybe 5-6 days ago, where it was occurring to a lot of people that the opposition seems to have a lot more momentum than initially it would have seemed. And the general assumption which tends to come with the Labour Party in Antigua and Barbuda, because it is the longest established party, it is the party with the largest base, and it is the party that has won the most elections. And it is the party that has the largest war chest, or the deepest war chest, I should say. So the general assumption of the Labour Party's supremacy was sort of being undermined as persons were observing the trend. Like I said, this started about 5-6 days ago. I think in that time since then, the Labour Party has sort of reoriented. I don't know if I'm correct to say, but I almost feel as though I've seen a change in their messaging, because their messaging in this election, one thing I will say, the Labour Party's campaign in this election has been far different from what it was in the 2018 election. In the 2018 election, they spent a great deal of time dealing both with the issue of the competency and the worth of the opposition candidates who are seeking to replace them, but they also spent a great deal of time focusing on policy, what it is they wanted to do in the next term, and what it is they thought they'd achieve in the previous term. In this election, the policy aspect has been far, far less, and that is another issue which observers and analysts have pointed out, that their election strategy in the first 3 weeks really seemed to be really strong attacks at the opposition candidates on any basis that could be found. Basically a systematic attempt to disqualify every member of the opposition slate on the basis of whether or not you're going to claim that they're not competent, or they haven't been successful at this, or they don't have a good track record at that. But it wasn't so much a very heavy leaning on, here's what we intend to do in the next 5 years. Whereas the opposition has actually been sticking to policy. Yes, there have been the same sort of attacks at the other side in terms of competence and character and so on, but the opposition more so has been able to stick to a campaign that is themed on policy. And now the question can easily be asked, and it can easily be argued, whether or not voters will be more swayed by a campaign that focuses on policy or a campaign that focuses on personal attacks. Some may argue, hey, if you get down and you start, disqualifying persons' personal attack, not personal attacks, but character attacks and so on and so forth, dealing with them specifically on a level they govern and so on and so forth. Many persons would argue that that may be very effective. Other persons may not, be open to, really taking in that sort of mess, get tired of that thing, and may want to hear more about policy. But the opposition has has, I think, done a better job, honestly, of sticking to policy, and they also have the benefit of the fact that they've been camping essentially 2 years, because the Prime Minister had been teasing the early election called, been campaigning since 2001. And so I think it came down to Christmas, the Labour Party called the election date, and their objective, I think, on the ruling party side has been to have a short campaign with maximum visibility, to draw out as much of their base as possible, and to drive home in the minds of the voters that, their argument that the opposition slate is not a competent slate. They haven't really hit points about their future plan for the next 5 years, and they haven't so much, I think they haven't done as good a job as they could have done of promoting their achievements. They do have achievements, and they have promoted them, but I think they could have focused more on them. Yeah, that's pretty much where we are in Antigua right now.
The money is in the current government, the ABLP, no doubt, and we'll watch to see what's going on. But from your layman's point of view, can you call the elections right now?
Well, I can tell you this. The main opposition, United Progressive Party, is going to do far better than it did in 2018. In 2018, they were pretty roundly defeated. They saw a major slump in support. I think their support overall dipped to around 14,000 and something voters, 14,400 and something voters in the last election. And the Labour Party was still trending pretty high, up at 23 or 23,000 plus. And those are the sorts of numbers the Labour Party had in the prior election of 2018 when it came into office. So you saw this major slump in opposition support, where I think persons just generally were not pleased with perhaps the leadership of the opposition and Mr. Harold Lover, and also the opposition slate. I mean, I'll be totally honest with you, the opposition slate in the last election, the 2018 slate, was a complete and total disaster. A real flaming disaster. I can't put it any other way. They attempted to rectify that in this election. They gave a new slate of persons. Some arguments to be made. Many commentators might argue that some of the persons on that slate are still not as impressive as one would want to see in terms of persons vying for public office. Maybe one or two question marks somewhere. But I do generally think it's a better slate than they had put out in 2018. The 2018 slate was completely disastrous. I, in fact, met people in 2018 who voted for the third party, the DNA, because they said that they just found it unconscionable that they couldn't vote for the UPP candidate in their constituency. So they gave their vote to another party that they knew wouldn't win because they just couldn't. Because the candidates that were filling the slate in the last election were that bad. But it's 2023 now, a different kettle of fish. And I think a major issue in this election will be the Prime Minister himself. It will sort of be a referendum on Gaston Brown and whether or not Antiguans and Barbudans are pleased to go forward with his leadership. I don't think it is a secret at this point that the Prime Minister can be described as animated, forward, frank, and even in some respects braggadocious, which is not generally a word one would use if one was looking to describe a Prime Minister. But that is the case. A lot of people have become wary of that. A lot of people have become tired of that. There was an instance, remember I was discussing the Prime Minister and Mr. Michael, former Labour MP, two used to be friends. I'm sure they're still friends behind the scenes anyway. But obviously in public now they're at each other's throats. Mr. Michael is no longer on the Labour slate. He's been pushed out. He's running as an independent candidate. There was an incident that took place in the constituency where Mr. Michael is running and where the Labour Party has a new candidate. And the Prime Minister was out there with the new candidate campaigning. And Mr. Michael, the new candidate and the Prime Minister were all on somebody's porch, the porch of one of the residents there. And the Prime Minister threatened on camera to punch Mr. Michael in the face. And it was taken again as another, another sort of drop in bucket in sort of the personality thing. So I think that will be a major issue in this election. At the same time, other critical issues, obviously, cost of living, jobs, economy, and really and truly the overall performance of the government over the last 9 years in terms of their management of national affairs.
All right, we got to leave it there, Kieran, but thank you so much for joining us and clearly articulating for us what you see to be the talking points leading into tomorrow's general elections in Antigua and Barbados. We will be connecting with you after to find out how it all went and to get a sense of how Antiguans then will be projecting into the next 5 years. Under whose leadership it shall be, we don't know. We'll wait until tomorrow to find out. But thank you for joining us. Always good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Piers.
Kieran Murdoch, journalist and host of the Wake Up Call in Antigua and Barbuda. Tomorrow is General Elections Day in Antigua and Barbuda. We shall be keeping an eye on it, just as sure as you will be as well. We'll take a break right here. When we come back, we're connecting with the University of the West Indies at Cave Hill to find out what else is happening as they celebrate 60 years of contribution to Barbados and the region.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Affair segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to in culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.vb. And together we will travel the world.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
18 minutes now to go to the hour of 8 o'clock as we turn our attention to the University of the West Indies at Cave Hill. I'm going to sit forward because I feel I'm going to be sitting like this for the next session right now as we interact once again with Dr. Henderson Carter, and he's the chair of the anniversary committee. Gerard Prescott is an experienced hiker, but a good guy, if I dare say. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Dr. Carter, now listen, Friday coming is the day when all of us are going to be on the compound. We are going to be exploring with you and your team as we celebrate this big milestone, 60 years. Let's quickly remind folks of what's happening on Friday, and then we'll project to the other activities.
Thanks, Pearson. Friday is a big day at the university. We are having a launch parade where students, staff, the alumni, and the public can come out and march around the university. We'll be starting at the tent, making a stop at the Leslie Robinson building, and that building is named after the first principal, Leslie Robinson. And we're going to unveil a portrait of Leslie Robinson as well. And then we march around and we go to the place where we call the Whispering Wall, where we have installations done, and Adrian Green will be doing our first installation, and the Whispering Wall is fantastic. And I mean, while there, we want to invite the public to come and experience the Whispering Wall. You whisper on one side and somebody will hear you on the other side, and it is really fantastic. And then of course you could also view at the Whispering Wall the Walk of Fame, where we see all the cricket statistics. Those West Indian bowlers and batsmen who got 5 wickets or 100 runs, you can see all of them there at the Walk of Fame. And the graves of the 3 Ws, Worrell, Weeks, and Walcott. So it is really a historic site. And then the best of them all is when we go to Kwa, the monument to Kwa, the enslaved African who came here at the age of 3 and rose up, imagine this, to become the first black sexton in the Anglican Church. First black man to be sexton. This man came here without any appearance and lived at the place we now call Cave Hill. And viewers could also see all of those individuals who live on the Cave Hill space in 1834. 295 enslaved blacks living at the Cave Hill space. You can see their names, their ages. For example, Orange is 75 years old. and there's Dick and Harry and all of these names. You can see their ages, their birth, where they're born, and that is really fascinating because it is the only place in this country where you can find the names of those enslaved people. Okay, so that's fascinating. And then we come back to the tent for entertainment.
Yes.
Mikey, RPB, Blood, whole lots of entertainers entertaining until you say when.
So what time does it all start?
We start at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock in the afternoon.
2 o'clock in the afternoon, and Pearson,
yes,
hopefully we will have the clock. You know, we have an iconic clock tower. We would want to have that clock chime in at 2 o'clock. I've been at the university for practically all my life, and I haven't heard that clock chime in.
Right.
But this is a time where you could hear that clock chime in. And that's why I'm inviting the alumni, all those graduates, even if you did not graduate from this university, perhaps you're a Mornin graduate or St. Augustine graduate, come to campus.
Yes.
And from 2 until you say when.
Until you say when. Friday, this coming Friday. This sounds exciting. I'm going to challenge my team. So let's us all go. Nadia, pull together the team. Let us all go. I can hear them, but you're telling me already, telling me all sorts of things. They have plans. But let's all go and be a part of it. Let's all go Barbados and be a part of it. You know the contribution of the University of the West Indies at KFIL to your child, to your family, to you. And we should be there. If you don't know a lot of the history as well, perhaps this Friday gives you an opportunity to learn even more, to walk the walk, feel the talk, to everything about the University of the West Indies, and you have a good old party in the afternoon from 5. It's going to be fantastic. Friday, beginning at 2, get there early. Parking, by the way, because the campus can only...
Well, the campus is a big place.
Yes.
There's parking in the law faculty area. There's parking all around.
Okay.
And the campus is a wonderful place, and we have parking. There's parking in the CARICOM building over on the other side by the EVCCI. Lots of parking. So don't bother about parking. Just come. Come and relax. Come and enjoy the company.
Yes.
Come and mingle with the lecturers. Come and mingle with the tutors and the students. And you know what would be great? We will have those students. And we have students from all over the world. We'll have those students from the Caribbean with their flags. Imagine seeing the flags from all the countries in the region and beyond parading through the campus.
That is going to be spectacular. One word, spectacular. But there's more happening. Part of which is that you're going to be I frame it in this way particularly, connecting once again with our community, because that's the footprint of the University of the West Indies through a series of hikes. Talk to me a little bit about that.
I want to add giving back as well.
Yes.
Because these hikes are intended for families. They're intended for children. And children only pay $5 to come in. If you are under 17, you pay $5. If you are over 17, you pay $20. But I want to say that they're not just hikes where you walk fast. These are educational hikes. We want to educate people about their country. We want to educate people about their heritage. And we believe that if we educate people, they will get to love their country. And we stop all this crime, all this violence. When people love their country, embrace their country, embrace their spaces. For example, this first site, and Gerard is going to say a little bit more, is going to take us through suburban Barbados. And one of the things that we'll be pointing out is the history and the heritage concerning the route. For example, we start at the Botanical Gardens, and that was the home of John Redmond Bovell. Yeah.
On my notes. By $2. Is it $2?
Yes, $2. Yes. And it was supposed to be the home of the mental hospital as well. But they made a decision to take it down to Black Rock.
Okay.
And then when we go on that hike, we will come across places like Peter King Road and Manning's Land and Tudor Bridge. We will stop to explain to our clients and the hikers why it is called Tudor Bridge. That was the home of a man called Joseph Tudor.
Not the Tudor.
Not that one. In the 1890s.
Yes.
Okay. And then you've heard about Eckstein Village.
Yes.
This was created by a lady called Harriet Eckstein.
Really?
Okay.
Well, who is she?
Okay.
You can find
this
out.
is a mulatto woman. A mulatto woman who owned property And those property owners later establish a garage in that area. Right. And that garage was the agency for Vauxhall. Yes. And the Ecksteins were also responsible for the first bus service in Barbados. Uh-huh. So there's a lot of history concerning the route, and that is why I call it a give back to our students, because they would not get this in the classroom.
That's right, that's right.
And a lot of what we teach must be taught in the community, where people can feel what is happening outside, because teachers won't teach this. And that is why we're inviting all parents to bring their children, to give their children a good education in the community.
Right, so that's, when is this hike, by the way?
This hike is Sunday.
Sunday.
Come at 3 o'clock. We start at 3:30. We move off at 3:30. And Gerard, as the hike leader, he's a very strict man.
Right, Gerard?
Yes, Chris.
You ain't kidding around at all.
Dr. Carter started the right way. He talked about giving back.
Yes.
Now, I'm no longer a staff member at university, but I would have worked there and studied there for about 9 years. And one of the staff asked me if I would come and talk to them about hikes. And I went, and I said to them, I will give back, I will lead the hikes for you. And they told me what they wanted to do, so here I am. The first hike is Sunday. We start at Botanical Gardens. It is not a race. It is for, like Dr. Carter said, for people to learn the community, to get to see places. And let me say to people, hiking is the sort of activity that you will see parts of Barbados that you will not normally see.
No, you're right.
Even if you fly over in a helicopter. Because sometimes you go under canopies for miles that you cannot see what is under there.
Wow.
So there are places that, like I said, I hike nearly every Sunday in Barbados that you will know they're there. I was just showing Dr. Carter some photos, and you will not believe that there's these places unless you actually go into hiking and go into the bush, what we call the bush. So one of the things I would say to people is that when you're hiking, make sure you're dressed properly.
Right.
People like to hike in soft wear and half that's fine, but make sure your shoes are laced up properly. I always advocate that you hike in boots, so that if you wring your ankle, there's more protection.
Right.
You can either wear long sleeves or you can buy these sleeves, because everything is not on the road. So some of them we go into the bush. And this hike, once we leave Botanical, come to Story, stop at Terrell Court, do the history, and we come all the way down to Eagle Hall, and then up Bank Hall. When they get to Bank Hall Junction, I'm going down behind the bridge.
Off-road?
Yes, off-road. Down behind the bridge and show people the back of Glenderry Prison.
Really?
Yes. And there's a trail that takes me right to Bellevue Plantation.
Wow. Didn't know that at all.
Yes.
So dressed to suit the occasion, dressed to suit the route.
Because once we get to Bridge Road, those who are going with me, because we're having a stop and stare, and what we call the fast medium.
Right.
I'm taking the fast medium into the bush, along the trail. And well, Dr. Carter didn't come on Sunday, but those who went on Sunday were excited about what they saw.
Yes, yes, yes. So we could start at the Botanical Gardens and we'll end again at the Botanical Gardens?
So normally what I try to do is for convenience. I take you from one place and bring you back there. So you don't have to worry about getting back to your vehicle.
So come park, walk, and come back.
Come right back to you.
Okay, and what time does that start, the hike on Sunday?
3:30.
3:30 on Sunday sharp.
We start.
So get there early, 3 o'clock. Warm up yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Don't just figure, hey, I'm old enough, I'm young enough to just hit the road and go. Start, warm yourselves up, and get ready for this hike. It's going to be educational and inspirational.
And one more thing. We will provide water and snacks for everybody. Water complements Armstrong agencies. Their brand is iCool and Sunshine Snacks. And wear your t-shirts, and the t-shirts were printed by Roger Cole Enterprises, and they are our partners. And Pearson, this is an opportunity to partner with people. So we shout out Roger Cole, we shout out Armstrong agencies, and I understand CBC will be sending the cameraman as well in the bush.
Even in the bush. And then you're showing the photos of some of the church shirts as well, and that's what we're talking about, supporting the University of the West Indies through its 60th anniversary. You said it's $5 for children.
Yes.
$20 for the adults. We pay on Sunday when we come to the Botanical Gardens.
You register online.
Okay.
Or, better yet, you come to the Cayfield campus, to the University bookshop, pay at the bookshop, and pay for your T-shirt as well.
Right.
T-shirts, $25, branded T-shirts with the 60th anniversary logo, really wonderful. And if you want a cap, you can get your university branded cap as well.
Yes,
Caps are on sale.
Yes. So we can register on what site?
Online, and the site is there. If you could pull it up a little bit.
Okay. That's on the University of the West Indies
Yes,
site?
there's the site there. If you could enlarge
So you
it a
can
bit.
go to bit.ly/historic-hikes.
Yes.
That's very
Right there on your screen. Take a look, everybody. Take a look to this. We're going through on the 22nd of January. We're going into St. Michael, and this is just the first of a series of historic hikes. Indeed, bit.ly/historic-hikes, and you register right there, or you can just capture that screenshot of they scan the code, and it'll take you to register. Register early to be a part of the hike. Have uncomfortable shoes, water and snacks will be provided. Don't you worry about that part, but get to the Botanical Gardens on Sunday by 3, because the hike starts at 3:30. Bring the children, bring everybody, and let's do this. Now, just a tease.
We would just like to say that we would like people to register by Friday.
By Friday.
I mean, you may be able to come on Sunday, and also, but we would hope that everybody registers by Friday. And this is the first of 11.
Right. Because next month
you're
going into the best part on this island.
We're going to St. Lucie.
You hear that, folks? The best part on the island.
Pico Tenerife.
Oh, nice spot.
Tremendous place.
Yeah.
Tremendous place. And you will get to go close to Pico Tenerife, I believe.
Yeah, those who are willing, I will take them on Pico Tenerife.
Listen, as a boy, I walked across, I know how it feels. So here we go. We're going to do this again, folks. Don't forget, go to the website quickly and register by Friday to be a part of it all, but get to the Botanical Gardens on Sunday by 3 in the afternoon. Children 5 to 17 years old, $5 is a hike, and your payments may be made at the UE bookshop or at the UE cashier as well. $20 adult per height. Wear your 60th anniversary T-shirt, available at the UE bookstore as well, and wear yellow for the Parish of St. Michael color as well. It's great. It's happening starting this Saturday, but remember, Friday at 2 o'clock on the campus is when we're going to walk the ring of the campus, and we're going to have a good time meeting all of those historic spots. The Whispering Wall.
Yes.
Can't wait to see how that wall works as well. We're celebrating with the University of the West Indies the 60th anniversary. Thank you, gentlemen. All the very best. Of course, Dr. Carter, we can talk some more.
Yes.
There's much more to talk about. Gerard, good to see you yet again.
Same here, my
and
brother,
for those
same
of you who listen to the other station, that's what Gerard looks like. I know you know.
But I'm now retired.
He's now retired. All right, we're going to take a break right here. We're coming back with more on Morning Barbados in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity. If you are an entrepreneur, artist, baker, designer, author, or have done anything you think should be highlighted, email us at morninbarbados@cbc.bb. Let us show the world our exceptional Bajan youth.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? Then Mornin Barbados would love to feature your book in our The Next Chapter segment. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. That's morning without the G. Come and let us turn those pages together.
Because you love English Premier League, MCTV has got it back. Now you can watch all the games of the English Premier League plus UEFA and NFL on MCTV. Current customers can upgrade to Matchback Extra at just $23. Call MCTV today at 228-6288 to upgrade, or come in and sign up for a new service.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We are out of time. That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Before I go, let me say happy birthday today to my good friend Charmaine Burns Plaza, who celebrates today. Charmaine, congratulations on another day. Congratulations indeed. Enjoy it. Thanks to my producer Nadia Foster, our technical director Samuel Mason, our assistant today Roel Ford at sound has been Christopher Blemond at Master Control. To Misha Green and Pearson Boyne, to all of them, to each of you, thank you. Oh, Doreen was there today. Doreen, so sorry. We thank you all. Have yourselves a great today. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning.